Welcome to Pitch It To Me Podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of Flesh and Blood design. This pre-release, remember to de-chi your deck, or else you'll get DQ'd. On today's episode, we'll be giving our first impressions of Part the Mistveil, and as is tradition, we'll tally up the scores between hosts and see who made the most correct predictions. On Red Pitch, we'll discuss the three heroes, how strong we think they'll be, and we'll name some favorites. On Yellow Pitch, we'll get the read on our chi. And on Blue Pitch, we'll review our pitch and predictions. You can find us across all socials such as TikTok and Instagram at Pitch It To Me Podcast. I'm Clark.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Fuzzy. And we're super excited to be making this episode today. It's wrapping up the end of spoiler season. We literally were doing up the notes for this episode, and they were revealing the last of the few cards through this box unboxing.
Yeah, for once we actually had perfect timing around when LSS gave us information and when we record the podcast.
The only thing we don't know is the Fabled. So if you're living in the future and it's super sick and you want to know our thoughts about it, you're going to have to add us directly.
Yeah, you're going to have to visit our Discord. You're going to have to engage with us, leave a comment.
But we're very friendly. And this is also really fun for us because we like to make a little game of spoiler season where a few episodes ago, we all gave our predictions for the set. You know, when they give us a little bit of info, they just kind of tease us with the name of the set and maybe the heroes. And we try to predict as much as we can. And whoever gets the most points, whoever gets the most predicted things correct, gets to lord it over the other two hosts until the next set comes out.
Yeah. So we started doing it back in Bright Lights, which I won. And then we did Heavy Hitters, which Joel won. So
By a landslide.
Oh, yeah, landslide.
By a landslide.
Joel is the current, crown holder.
Yes.
He's wearing the medal right now.
I just couldn't let you guys go past that without highlighting that. It was a landslide indeed.
It really was.
It was 4-1-1.
And it wasn't even we came up with bad predictions. It was just man, you thought LSS was going to be fancy with this set? Nah, fam.
You guys had so much cooler predictions.
Shit.
Yeah, you guys had so much cooler predictions than I did. I'm I know what they're about. I know what they're going to actually print.
Warrior, Guardian, Brute? Nah. Basic bitch.
And I like that as foreshadowing for this episode, where once we cover it, there's a lot of crazy ideas that we put out there.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
and
we're all collectively face palming at our selves.
We're gonna have to see if Fuzzy can also tally up the scores even, or are we gonna start running away with it, Joel?
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, we just want to talk about how awesome this set looks and what we're excited for, what we're skeptical of. Joel, do you want to start us off with Red Pitch?
Sure. So looking at all the heroes, I think the one I was most excited about was Zen, just because this was the first time I could, experience some of the new design philosophy, because I haven't played really a new hero that LSS has come out with in a while, other than Kasai, but she seems, almost exactly the same as OG Kasai. But it looks like he might not be the strongest. I think I'm kind of looking at New to be the most pushed hero of the set so far. Mm-hmm. A lot of her attack reactions scale really well. Mm-hmm. She has Go Again pretty much on demand, which has been a huge bane of assassin design space. And I'm actually really impressed with what they were able to do with Enigma as well. She seems like the most balanced and most intelligently designed illusionist so far.
Yeah.
I'll say this about Enigma. I have no idea how to tell if she's strong or not. She's either not good, or I'm going to be complaining about her on this podcast for the next 2 years.
Yeah. And so much of it, all of it is skill expression, right? We've kind of said that every single time, an illusionist has kind of popped up in our conversations, is it's all about skill expression and how well will people play around things.
And lack thereof.
Yeah, because she definitely can't play with Spectra a lot. Mm-hmm. There's a few Spectra cards that she can kind of play, but not a lot.
I feel 90% of her, or basically all of her cards say ward. So there's maybe 6 to 9 cards she would use with Spectra at this point, but a lot of it seems super, super siloed, and it just seems a lot easier to deal with than what we've seen in the past with Illusionist.
So we're going to keep beating our eggs out. I also do think this is a refreshing take on Illusionist. It seems more balanceable and approachable from an opponent standpoint, and I'm excited for that. We've been harping on Illusionist a lot in this podcast.
Yeah, and I think Prism, based on what we've seen so far, is still gonna like do really well against Enigma, and should probably be the dominant force for the foreseeable future. I can't really imagine like Ward being better than Angels and Heralds when you don't really have a lot of attack actions to work with.
And Spectra. I mean, that is a very, like, just Genesis, Merciful Retribution, and ALS. Even if that's the only Spectra that they run, you know, that's still more Spectra than what this Enigma looks like.
For sure.
They'll be able to have.
And I also think that Zen, he looks way more mid-range, which I was really bummed about because I really wanted to know what it felt like to just not block and just do all the attacking like Katsu does. But he seems like he wants to be taking like these really key tempo turns and setting up for objectively stronger endgames than Katsu, where it just like it just means death and not like 30 damage or whatever. But Katsu probably beats him 9 times out of 10. How do you feel about it, Fuzzy?
I have been playing Katsu competitively for the last few months, and I remember going into this set thinking, like, depending on what Zen looks like, if Zen looks super strong, then it's going to be a really tight 2 weeks where I try to get Zen together to go to Nats. But I think just based on spoiler season, I'm going to stick with Katsu, and Katsu's going to be the deck I'm bringing to Nats. Part of that is just my comfort level. I'm comfortable with Katsu. I don't want to learn how to play a new hero. I want to play him. But he also does look stronger than Zen at this time. Zen has a lot of potential, though. I like a lot of his tools, like the one that lets you turn Crouching Tigers and give them the name, any name that you want, in order to enable other combo lines.
Yeah.
Like, turning Crouching Tigers into a Gust Wave to then just play Bonds of Ancestry seems super sick.
Yeah. So I think that's Mystic Beast of the Shifting Winds. It's a really long name for the card. But notably, that does require like a chi to get that effect.
It's called Shifting Winds of the Mystic Beast.
Let's call it Shwoom.
Shwoom. Shwoob.
Swoop. That's the name of the tiger on the art.
Shwoob the Magic Tiger.
Swoop the Magic Tiger. I think it's great art, and I think it's a great design. Oh, sorry, Chi lets you create Crouching Tigers, so it always gives you the ability to let Crouching Tigers have the effect, but to make the Crouching Tigers to really utilize that, you need the Chi.
I also do think it's cute how Zen gets to put Crouching Tigers into his hand. Every time I see a card that does that, I'm like, yeah, banish it with Art of War. Draw 2 cards for free, baby.
I mean, that's what people have been doing. I mean,
It's good.
I don't know if you guys have been like watching the YouTube videos, but there have been multiple YouTube videos of like just trying to see how tall Zen combos can get. And like they're getting into the 200 range. Like they're getting to almost like not Magical Christmas Land for like Kano, but like some of the biggest combos in the game are currently being done on Zen.
It's exciting.
Notably, though, because I've been watching a few of those videos as well, but notably, they really hinge on hitting with Tiger Swipe, which is a 0 for 4 following a Crouching Tiger attack, which is really easy to block. And if you're searching them at all with Zen's ability, then they become really telegraphed, and you can kind of just take everything leading up to that attack.
Now, notably, because on those big combo turns, based on how many Crouching Tigers you're able to put in front of them, you could Mask of the Pouncing Link and get 2. And so you could, like, leave behind one Crouching Tiger, throw the Tiger Swipe. Well, they're not going to let this one hit, so yeah, they finally block that one, but then Crouching Tiger, another Tiger Swipe, and that Tiger Swipe still threatens to make all the other Crouching Tigers.
Yeah, it's gonna kind of function similarly to Katsu setting up double Dishonor turns.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
So that you can really nail that on hit and possibly end the game on the spot instead of just dishonoring somebody.
What I would say is frustrating about it, though, is that the big gate to this combo isn't Bonds of Ancestry, which is a tutorable attack action card. It is the things that anthem your board. And the attack action that lets you double the size of it. That's really where I feel like the deck is being constrained. And the biggest issue with the deck is like you need to hit Art of Wars and Roar of the Tigers and Sacred Art. Like you need at least 2 of those to be active to make it a viable combo turn.
Yeah, this seems like a pretty decent pitch tech ninja, to be honest with you.
It's possible. I would be slightly concerned about that with Chi. We'll get more into that in Yellow Pitch about some of the concerns I have about Chi design. But, like, I think you're definitely right. Like, if he plays a decent mid-rangey game plan off of 1-card, 2-card hands, where he's still throwing 9, 10 damage, and then he just has this pitch stack of, like, here's Artivore drawing into an Artivore, drawing into a Cash-In, drawing into a Cash-In, drawing into a Toma Findall, and, like, you're like, I just drew 20 cards and played 30 Crouching Tigers. Yeah, okay, I see it. But I think it's going to be hard, especially when we're seeing the numbers that are currently being put out by decks.
I think it's interesting you call him a mid-range hero, because, like, I think he could really shine in that role, too. I know KO's doing it really well right now, but being able to block with a card or two and still crack back for 10 damage is a really good hero. Like, especially if you can do it really reliably.
Yeah, but can Ninja really be mid-range when they have so many 2 blocks?
There are lots of 3 blocks that I'm seeing in this set.
I was going to bring that up too. He looks very, very tanky. And like some of the new like Mystic defensive cards that they get is not strictly just defense reactions, but like the way that you're able to mitigate some of the damage with the generic Mystic stuff. But we can get into that later.
Yeah.
Overall, I think Zen has, like you said, Clark, a lot of potential, and I'm a little underwhelmed so far because I expected him to be more aggro and like be more clear in design space and be a bit more linear. But I guess overall, I'm like okay with it.
I'll agree that he does seem a little underwhelming to me, especially because I was hoping to see like some really cool new combo lines or new crazy Mystic stuff. But you know what? Like, I really think they wanted Zen to be a little understated to be approachable for newer players.
Yes.
Because looking at Enigma especially, but also Na, the assassin, having this Crouching Tiger game plan is a lot easier to understand, and it's their approachable, like, beginner-friendly hero.
Now let's talk about the incredibly sexy elephant in the middle of the room with Nu. She's looking really, really strong, but I think a lot of her power might be bait.
Really?
Well, that's kind of the point, right?
Yes. But also I feel like people are really overstating her right now. Like, just how I think that Zen might be getting a little undersold because, like, he doesn't look very impressive at first glance. I think people are looking at Nu's design. They're thinking it's very, very impressive, but we're not quite thinking about the practicality of a lot of the builds. I know this as somebody who, like, just last episode went on a 10-minute rant about Double Trouble. But I do think that she has some big limiting factors, most notably her over-reliance on playing blue cards, which are just going to keep her raw numbers low, and the ability that she needs to keep a large amount of cards in hand. When everyone thinks about Assassin, they've been thinking about Arachne and Azuri and what they have been doing, which is D-reacts and low hand cards, right? Like really, really good 1-card, 2-card hands. That is what those heroes have been doing. Nu kind of needs 3 to 4 cards to really make those massive disruptive turns. Now, I do agree that, like, the hero ability is insane that it's activatable multiple times, right? Especially in the late game. That just seems absurd. The headpiece is far and away the most powerful legendary headpiece that we've seen. The ability to pitch a chi to just rip a card out of the opponent's hand is utterly insane. I mean, that will just ruin people in the late game. Levia is a dead deck against her because of that. They just either take away the card that banishes, or they take away the blue that lets you play the card that banishes. Like, it's crazy how disruptive that effect is.
I think they get to choose, but I agree. She looks extremely pushed, and honestly, like, I'm not really sure what deck can beat her right now. She just looks like she has all the tools.
Her.
No.
I think KO wrecks her because I think he puts out way more numbers than she does. And if he just says, fine, hit me for 10 and banish a card from my hand, my 3-card hand is going to still deal 12 to you.
I think when you give a deck the ability to scale with larger hands, that also has a lot of good on hits, because she still has access to Surgical, Leave No Witnesses, and Eradicate to like play a lot of blues out of her opponent's banish zone.
And like, she has Go Again on attack reactions to bolster those cards.
Right, exactly.
No, she only has Go Again when she keeps the larger hands. Like, that's kind of what I'm saying. Is like,
right,
but that's what he's saying.
Let me finish my point. So what I'm saying is, when you have a hero that can go too wide on the most disruptive cards in the game, there's not a lot of heroes, least of all Brute, that can fight through all of that and still have these like impressive 3 to 4 card hands, or 5 when you're KO and you want to be like Blood Rush Bellowing or Savage Slashing with multiple cards in hand. Like when you have tempo and you have disruption, the other player doesn't get to play the game. Least of all when you have chi at your disposal and you just like every time you've declared an attack for the first time, you're there -1 card. Full stop. Like that's really hard to deal with. That doesn't seem like it offers a lot of agency from anybody's side of the table.
Sure, but when I still look at some of these turns, when I see like, I think she's going to be insane if she ever like gets tempo. I think I can very much agree with that. But I kind of wanted to put out the counterpoint of I think her raw damage numbers are too low to really properly be afraid of. And she'll really be telegraphing when she is looking to make really big disruptive plays. And people will have a decent time playing around it. And I listed KO specifically because Scowling Fleshbag is always going to be a card that is going to wreck attack reactions. And is like, you can't Mask of Recurring Nightmares in response to that. I can rip the chi that stops them from doing that off of a Scowling turn. So, like, I definitely think that there are things that certain decks can do to still outvalue New, and people might be overstating her ability. I could also look like an idiot, 2 months from now when she's, like, top 8ing at Nationals, but...
Yeah, I'm going to hold up for that. I think that's what's going to happen. So we talked a bit about, like, who we think is the strongest, but... who do we think is actually going to deal with the meta the best right now? Because right now we're looking at KO at the top, obviously. Prism has been doing fairly well. Warrior's still pretty decent. Like, Dorinthia hasn't been converting as often, but Kasai's still really strong. People have been on, like, Decimator Bolton. Guardian really isn't heard of. So, like, what other... Oh, and Azalea, too. Like, how do these heroes deal with Azalea specifically?
Yeah, I like that point, actually. How do any of these... I mean, I think Enigma deals with Azalea very, very well.
Right.
Because, sure, 1 action point. I'm not giving my actions go again anyway.
Yep.
So, like, Remorseless automatically becomes worse. So many of those automatically become worse. Even, like, a Sleep Dart hitting Enigma, I feel like, isn't the biggest deal breaker in the world.
Yeah, when she can do stuff in response to her on-hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Enigma kind of dodges a lot of regular disruption. I hadn't thought about that before.
She can't do it all the time in response to everything, but she definitely has a lot of play into it. I would also say she can also just play out decent hands even under the disruptive effects that a lot of the time Azalea would be throwing on.
Yeah, because don't her ward X's get stronger, like based on the source of ward? Like if she has... One of them has like a ward 6, so that's like a 1 for 6, right? If I'm not mistaken.
If she pitches a certain amount of blues. So she needs to be like pitching and like playing big turns and like doing a lot of stuff. But yes.
Yeah, and here I'm thinking of specifically Rage Spectre, which is ward 1 on your opponent's turn, but it's ward 6 on your turn. So if you're facing against Azalea and you have... or you play this out as an instant, or you just play it as your 1 action per turn, if you can then protect the rest of your turn, you're just throwing 1 for 6 every turn. You don't need other action points. Like, that's better than... I mean, that's better than no weapon at all, which is what Azalea has. Like, eventually she's going to get fatigued with these large word numbers and get whittled down by these fat auras.
Yeah, very, very much so. I can see that. So she deals with Azalea great, but I think she... and it's going to become, I think, a very skill-expressive matchup between her and, like, KO.
Yeah.
Or her and, like, Warrior. How well is she going to be able to play around letting her wards get popped and what she's able to attack with? And I don't think Enigma's actually going to make a big meta impact straight away. I think that's going to be New.
Yeah, I
New
agree.
is going to have the most immediate impact because she has the clearest play patterns. I think her deck is the easiest to solve. And
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
And I think that she's most likely going to see the best early results. And then Zin and Enigma are going to come up after her. Where as people start finding the really efficient lines and the really nuanced deck building and the proper matchup ideas, they're going to hit their stride and they're going to start getting more wins than new.
Yeah, Enigma feels or is giving me a lot of Dromai vibes where people are not going to figure out for her like 6 months after the meta.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we talked about in previous episodes of Control specifically and how you have to be reactive to the meta. So she really needs to figure out what the metascape is and then react from there, and she might be good. But it'll be gate kept really hard by tons and tons of practice, much like Dromai was.
Yeah. Not to mention, if the next set is the Arcane set, like the rumor currently is, Enigma is actually going to get really hurt by that. I mean, right now, Vincent is a silver bullet to Enigma.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it, because I feel like Enigma like stomps on Kano right now.
She would stomp
Kano,
on any single number big Arcane, but like 5 rune chance wrecks her.
Yeah, but she has so many blues that she only needs to equip Arcane Barrier 1, and she probably has enough blues to get through most of those rune chants, if not all of them, and then use any leftover resources to play an aura if her turn lines up well.
Well, with Vincent's hero ability, you would just need to play a non-attack. And
Vincent's special.
Yeah, Vincent's a little bit different.
She has the unpreventable damage. That beats Enigma. But if we're heading an all Arcane set in the future, I don't see any reason. I mean, maybe they'll print some like unpreventable Arcane damage. That'd be kind of sick.
Or like instances of 2,
Oh, yeah.
where it's a little bit harder to block on a room, like with Rosetta Thorn, God forbid.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that's where they start to go a little bit with Runeblade while also stopping their turns from going as wide. But that's for a future episode. We can make Joel hate us later.
I'm already picturing my vacation on that recording day.
I'm Brian, the new Wizard Runeblade. I have a sword that has 2 arcane and 2 physical damage, but only if
But don't worry, I'm not Rosetta Thorn.
It's Brian, not Briar.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm pretty much done with Red Pitch. I'm really excited about all the heroes to see how they interact, and kind of going over, what each one wants to be doing was fun. But I think now it's time to go over to our Yellow Pitch to see some stuff about Chi and Mystic. Fuzzy, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm excited to take over Yellow Pitch today and talk all about the Mystic talent, because kind of more so than any of the individual heroes, I find the Mystic talent to be really interesting design-wise. Maybe it's the elegance. Maybe it's because most of them only have 1 line of text on them, and I tend to like cards that are just like simple and to the point and are able to convey their idea pretty directly, to supply that backbone for the rest of the game. And I love how many build-around Mystic cards there are. Like,
There's a lot.
For instance, there's that Cosmic Awakening card where based on the number of Chi cards you pitch to play it, it can have 10, 15, or 20 power.
Yes, the 9 for 20.
Even 9 for 10 is like off of a blue on rate,
9 for
right?
10 is not good. Though.
It's not good, but it's like kind of on rate. But that's also good for fatigue. Anyway, there's also
Guardian ever shows its face again. They're getting fragged by these Mystic heroes.
There's like so much utility hidden in there. I also like these cycles they've printed. The first and second tenant of Wind, Moon, and Tide.
There's so many sick cycles in this set. I love it.
I think it's really interesting how they've set up these Chi cards to have very marginal value when you play them, but you transcend to actually get almost explosive value out of them. Because if I imagined playing a card and then putting a blue pitch into my hand, it would be Belittle. Belittle was banned because that is a strong effect. And these cards are like blue Belittle in a way. Plus, they give you access to your hero power, and I think it's really interesting how they've gatekept an entire hero ability behind these specific Chi cards. If you want to use your hero ability with these heroes, you have to run one of these 8 plus your specific class card. You have one of 9 options, potentially more. You can run all of them if you really want to.
And what's weird is that a lot of them are actually only really playable in very specific circumstances or in very niche circumstances, right?
Like the defensive ones that like give an attack -1. That's really hard to play on your own turn.
Yeah, or even like, say your turn 0 Enigma, you really want to transcend, get that into your deck as soon as possible. And it's like, it's the card that lets you banish from the opponent's graveyard. And it's they don't have a graveyard yet. They haven't had the chance to block with anything.
Yeah.
So I can't even transcend. It's really interesting.
And I think the mechanic of flipping a resource card and putting a resource card into your deck is really innovative for LSS. They like, I'm pretty sure like, what was it James White said that he's, out of the 10 sets that he's designed, 11 sets, this is the one he's most proud of. It's probably because when he sat there and came up with this cheat, he was like, oh yeah, this is why I became a card designer.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like you're putting a gym in your deck, and we've talked a little bit about gyms and sort of what they do for the game, and how a lot of decks actually just don't run gyms because having an on-block card is a really bad idea.
Wait, that's true. They are all gems.
They're just gems.
They do a very specific thing when they pitch. I mean, they're still blues, but like...
Now, I want to note that they're extra powerful, right? And they like open up gated abilities behind them, right? The hero abilities are gated behind chi. The legendary equipment abilities are gated behind chi. But yeah, like it's just a gem.
Even on the front face, the fact that they don't block, and you probably don't... I feel like when you see these cards, you want to transcend them like almost every time. I can't imagine a scenario where you'd rather transcend second cycle.
Yeah, because you got to think when you sleeve up a Mystic hero, you don't have a hero ability. I mean, New kind of does, but Zen doesn't. He just has his ability where you go find a combo card and create a Crouching Tiger. New and Enigma have some use, but you want to start transcending pretty much as soon as you can so that you can start getting value out of your hero power and other, effects that you have on your equipment.
It's a very ambitious design choice.
Yeah. I also want to note with these transcend cards, but also just with all of the Mystic cards, I would say, you're really wanting hands of like 3 or 4 blues to really pull everything off.
Yeah. That kind of goes into a larger point I wanted to make. And that's how blues are good cards. Blues have a specific function that you need to have in your deck, and that's that they pitch for the most resources. Just like you typically always want to have red cards in your deck because they do the most whatever you're doing. And the fact that you have a entire talent based on the good cards being blues, you have to be really careful when you're designing those. Because if you just say like, oh, your blue cards have +2 power, those means they're basically reds at that point, and you don't have any weaknesses anymore. You have to find something more either gated or fancy if you're going to design something around blues.
And what they seem to have done is, with a lot of these Mystic cards, if you've transcended or if you've played another blue card this turn, and if you actually think about it, having to transcend is like having to play a blue card this turn.
Right.
And because all of the cards are blue themselves, you're kind of needing to keep multiple blue cards to be played every turn. And that's what finally gives them the value of like reds. There's a whole set, Droplet, Rising Tide, Spillover, and Tidal Surge, where the attack is 0, 1, 2, and 3, where if you played another card this turn, it gets the power rate of being a red. So Droplet is a 0 for 2, but if you play another blue card this turn, it gains +2, it goes to 4. And it's like you're playing a red.
So the challenge becomes, how can I play that initial blue in a way where I'm not losing the value of playing a blue? Kind of like Dromai had her whole challenge is like, I have to pitch reds. How can I get value out of my cards even though I'm pitching reds? And her answer is basically dragons. Dragons can give you a lot of value over time where you don't have to worry about it. But with these heroes, that's the challenge, both in design and in gameplay. As a player, how can I get my value out of my blues? And the wider we go, the easier it is to capitalize on it. If I've played one blue, now all of my Mystic cards get that bonus. It's just what you were saying, Clark.
Which, by the way, is one of the reasons why I feel like this limited is going to be really wonky. Because there's going to be a lot of blues, and a lot of hands that want 3 or 4 blues. And then people are going to be like, yes, I get to do my cool Mystic thing. And then they're only going to present 8 points of damage, and they're like, I took 7 damage last turn to make this happen.
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
There's so much explosive value you can get, though, because these hands that you're talking about needing 3 or 4 blues, that's like transcend hands.
Sure. But I want to note that they're not like red value plus, they're blue value plus.
Some of them get really close, though.
Some of them get very, very close, but then I think that's a little bit luck of the draw. Again, this is like kind of circling back to what I thought about New. New is going to be like, yeah, I have this really cool 0-for-1 blue card with an incredible on hit, and I just need to put a bunch of attack reactions on top of it. But then, like, they're like blue attack reactions, so you're really only getting up to like 5 or 6 power on the overall turn.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, you could draw really, really cleanly, right? With like the one perfect red or the one perfect whatever to like give yourself that 15 value turn, but it's going to be a lot harder to get there.
For sure. So those are all the reasons I'm excited about the Mystic Talent. I think it also rounds out the cycle that we've seen of like Draconic cares about reds, light cards care about yellows, Mystics care about blues. There's a talent for every color. Woo!
It finally happened! We did it! Woo! They can do other talents now!
As I'm reading through spoilers, I did have this thought of like, all 3 of these heroes have a really big hoop to jump through in the form of these transcend cards. Like, I know we mentioned it earlier, but is this like a core tenet of the Mystic Talent where you don't get your hero ability until later? You need certain cards to see your hero ability. You have to jump through hoops to use your hero ability. Like, it seems like part of the balance for these heroes is that they just literally can't do what they want all the time. It almost reminds me of Vincent, who like needed to have specific cards in her hand in order to actually have her pop-off turns. Otherwise, she was just getting an IP penalty.
I think yes. I think Chi being the thing that gates so much value is 100% one of the biggest things. I've also noticed how awkward a lot of these cards can be. Like, certain cards care about you pitching Chi to get the value from them, or require you to be pitching blues to get the value from them. And in less than ideal scenarios, I think that's going to be really, really hard to have happen. Same thing with everything that cares about you transcending on the turn to make it happen.
Yeah.
Like, all those feel like you need to have it line up. And when it doesn't line up, you're actually playing a really worse deck. A great example, I think, of this in Enigma is 3 Visits. 3 Visits is Ward X, where X is 3 times the number of blue cards you've pitched this turn. So you may be thinking, Clark, what do you mean? It's Illusionist. They're going to pitch a bunch of blues, and then this is going to be like Ward 9, and then it's going to be swinging for 9. Maybe. What are you playing off of that, right? How are you actually getting all those blues? Like, if you transcend, I can see it, right? Because if you transcend, you are both playing a card, but also getting it as a blue pitch to then activate. So, like, if you pitch a blue to play the blue, and then you transcend, and then you pitch that blue to the hero ability, and then I guess you maybe find another blue to place. But it's just so... It's so Magical Christmas Land feely. And, like, any amount of disruption or extra pressure on you is going to make it so much harder to actually get the value that you need from this card to make it powerful.
Yeah, it's like every red you play is hampering into that chance of not drawing the cards you need.
Yes. I'm so happy you mentioned that.
Like, you want to try to minimize the amount of reds that you play, and there's always a balance across all heroes, but the amount of blues demanded of you really seems to be high here. So every time I see a red Majestic, I'm like, that looks really cool. I have to be careful. You can't just run the cool reds. I know that's basics.
I think we were laughing at like 30 blue KO deck, but like now we have 30 blue Mystic heroes.
40 blue, right?
40 blue, yeah.
Oh, was it
easily.
40?
No, I'm just saying, like, I think 40 blue is almost a necessity. Because I've been testing some deck lists where I've been going 50-50 on them, and it doesn't feel like I have enough blues on a lot of these turns to transcend and play what I need to. I think this is the most obvious in all the Sacred Art cards. The Sacred Art card requires you to play a blue and then pitch 3 to play this blue card.
Yeah.
How reliably can you get 3 blues in hand? But that needs to be the signal for you of like, this is my power turn. This is my Sacred Art turn.
You know, the only thing that makes it easier is that all of those Transcend cards can be parked in Arsenal. They're like blues you can Arsenal. And that really does make it a lot better, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to get multiple blues in hand, the fact that you can Arsenal one to go back into your hand later and then pitch away, like, smooths it out a lot.
Yeah. But does that just make CNC one of the most terrifying cards now to these heroes?
I don't think they have to use their Arsenal. Like, everybody likes having their arsenal, but CNC's good.
CNC is really good. I think especially if people are parking their 1 of 8 transcendable cards.
Yeah. I think that's about all I wanted to talk about with the Mystic. Again, I'm just super excited to see how it plays out. I think I'm especially excited for Limited because then we actually get to play a lot of these like generic Mystic cards just kind of rolling around in the set.
And we're going to need a lot of practice for Nats too.
Oh yeah, Joel, you're my draft buddy, huh?
Yes, sir.
But with that, I'm going to hand the metaphorical podium to Clark. What do you have for us for Blue Pitch? Something exciting, huh?
Yes. Fans of the podcast will know that this is Pitch and Predictions Part 2, baby. It's time for us to tally up who's the smartest host, who has the biggest brain, who is going to the gifted class and is going to lose touch with all their other friends.
Wow.
That's so dark.
Speaking from experience, Clark?
Now I don't want to win.
A little bit. That was fine. I was like 6.
I'm excited to hear all the wrong that we were spewing a few weeks
Oh,
2
there's
months
so
ago.
many. Okay, so let's start off at the top. We started by talking about the different heroes, what the heroes would look like, the heroes being printed, and I led it off with they're going to print an adult Benji, and he will be underpowered.
They did not print an adult Benji.
They did not. Fuzzy, you said that there would only be 3 draftable heroes in Part the Mistveil, the 3 that were released when we said. Because there was some indication of like maybe more heroes would be coming. So we
Sort
were
of.
like, are they going to be draftable? Are they not going to be draftable? How
I
are
was
they
just
going to be
talking
showing
shit.
up?
There's this phrase that Joel used that lurks in my head every time we do these episodes, and that's ground fruit. It's like not low-hanging fruit. It's like on the ground. It's so easy to grab.
Yeah.
And I thought this was ground fruit. Ground fruit is like kind of like disqualifiable, but you guys both predicted something other than this, which kind of gives me the privilege of like, no, actually, I think this is going to be the
true.
case.
I
So,
think this is a full point for him.
I
Because
agree.
we were talking about them printing young-only heroes. We were talking about them printing a hero in the expansion slot that would be different or draftable in some way.
give me that ground fruit point. Nom 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 nom.
Ground fruit point. All right, don't get drunk now. Joel, in the same vein, said that there would be there will be 3 other Mystic heroes. So it would follow the same pattern as Heavy Hitter of having 3 and 3.
I mean, technically, I was 1/3 right.
I guess.
It is true that we just saw a Enigma that's in the expansion slot.
And actually, literally in the middle of us recording this episode, they announced another young-only wizard hero as a convention card.
What?
I don't know the
Yeah, look at the
full
chat.
explanation of it. It fucking looks cool. So that's 2 heroes, but these aren't CC heroes. And I think they said they would be adding 15 CC heroes. So this doesn't even play into that point of how we've seen these heroes get revealed. So you're right, Fuzzy. It leaves a really big question of how will we see these heroes come in. Joel, you also suggested that Briar, Lexi, and Oldham will have their new heroes printed in the expansion slot.
Sadly, no. I was really excited for them.
That would have been cool though.
Would have been interesting.
I want to see them back. Prism got a new hero so quick.
All right. I suggested that there was a rumor of a hero being in the expansion slot. And I said that it wasn't going to be a hero card, but a demi-hero card, which technically worked. And it wasn't. Vincent got a great card, though.
Yeah, really great card.
And I also predicted that there will be a dedicated slot in the pack for a new hero and its support, all Dynasty and Arachne. That did not happen.
That one was a long shot.
It was a cool idea, though. I do like that concept in general.
Jumping in, we started making predictions about a couple of specific heroes. Joel suggested that Zen would use the leg tap line.
Yeah, I don't really know where that came from. I think I just want to see a ninja with more leg tap stuff, you know?
Yeah, like they built off of the surging line when they added bonds. They kind of grafted onto it. I'd love to see them graft onto existing combo lines in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And legs are cool.
And that did not happen. I said that Zen will be built in a way that doesn't rely around bonds of ancestry, which is kind of true. I mean, we haven't seen any bond support really in this set outside of what was it? Schwoob.
Yeah, sure.
Schwoob. So there's like a little inkling of support there, but
I think I'm okay with giving you at least a half a point. It's one of those things where like it could just be that the best meta deck is Bonds of Ancestry still.
yeah.
Because that's kind of a meta prediction that you're saying. But none of the things that we're seeing in this set, I think, are really
Pushing us.
Yeah.
Towards really obviously like, oh, we can't play Bonds of Ancestry. This other thing is so much better.
What do you think, Joel? Half point? Full point?
Yeah, let's do half point.
I think half point is fair there. I appreciate it. Off the rim.
This isn't real.
Yeah. I also made a prediction for Zen where he would have a demi-hero where he fully transcends. Airball!
Oh, young naive Clark.
Read this next one, Clark.
And Joel said they will all have demi-heroes.
These are such good ideas. Can you imagine like these enlightened beings like going into cosmic space when they like transcend? Like that'd be so cool.
Exactly. It would have been so fucking cool.
Let's talk about new predictions. We didn't have many.
Who?
New.
Oh, no. Got it.
So we didn't have many predictions for new, actually. One, because I felt like we were all kind of expecting a little bit of what we got. Kind of. I don't know. We weren't too inspired by like what would a Mystic Assassin look like. Which maybe is I think being 2020.
I think mostly because we were like, we see stealth on her hero ability, so like she's going to be another stealth hero, right?
Yeah. I did throw out there that they would reprint Malign, which they did not do. They did print a card that had unpreventable damage.
Yeah, it's functionally malign.
Yeah, it's functionally malign, but it requires an attack reaction to be played on top of it. So we then went on to make some predictions for Enigma. So some Enigma predictions. Joel had the prediction of Enigma will have a new weapon similar to Iris of Reality, but it would pay 1 to attack for 1.
Joel, that's what it do.
I was so close.
Not exactly.
That's at least half a point. I would say 3/4 of a point. What do you think, Clark?
I don't think we drew in quarter point, so it's either we round up to 1 or we leave it at 0.5. I say a full point.
Woohoo.
Fuzzy also says Iris-like, but it will cost 2 to swing.
Yeah, I don't think I get points for that.
No. I made some big predictions that Enigma would make allies and would have a lot of marvels.
Man, that would have been cool.
It would have been cool.
But I think like immediately after you made that prediction, they like showed like half the fucking marvels in the set, so it's like whatever.
Yeah, and it was all the chi. We then started talking a little bit about limited. I predicted that our next weapon for Ninja would be two-handed, and Zen's weapon would either be a starter or a combo to go with Crouching Tiger.
That's pretty much there.
It is that.
It's not technically a combo card. Like, it doesn't get buffed if you played a Crouching Tiger. But it is like, it starts the Crouching Tigers. Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean,
no card says combo with the weapon either, right?
Yeah.
Right, but with this card, like it makes like unless you have another way to buff your Crouching Tiger, this gives you a buff to your Crouching Tiger, which could be argued as a starter.
Yeah, you could argue that Crouching Tiger combos off of this card. It can just come anywhere in the chain so long as it's after this.
Right.
It doesn't need to come immediately after.
Yeah, I feel like you were going for something different than what we got when you made this prediction, but I'd still give you the full point.
Yeah, I agree.
Full point for Clark. Fuzzy said there will not be any main deck cards that cost chi, only hero abilities, and he threw in their weapon.
That's kind of wrong because there were cards that are bolstered by chi. So,
But they do not cost chi. I will say that there is that one Majestic that has essentially 0 power if you don't pitch any chi to it.
yeah, but
I mean, it's still playable without the chi.
It is
Yeah.
still playable
Strictly
without
like-
the chi.
Strictly like to attack a Spectro.
there
you
aren't
know?
any cards that have a chi cost.
Yes, there are no main deckable cards that have a chi cost.
I'm going to give you the point.
I think so too. I think the spirit of this was that chi is going to be very, very limited in its design, and that's exactly how it turned out. So that's a point for Fuzzy. And rare, not so rare occurrence of Devil's Advocate Clark said, nah, fuck that, there's gonna be cards in my deck that cost chi. And that
Didn't quite
was
see that.
wrong. Joel made a prediction that, like the card Thaw, there will be hate cards to either what other classes are doing or to other aspects of the Mystic talent.
This is kind of true.
It's a little bit. We mentioned how there is a stealth card that has unpreventable damage, and that's kind of a straight counter to Enigma.
There's also like some Na cards that specifically are fishing for blues that have 0 base power. They're fishing for chi cards, and they're trying to rip chi cards out of your deck. I feel like that counts as a hate card. So,
I feel like Blanche exemplifies this the best,
oh
actually.
yeah. It's a generic that's specifically trying to target classes that care about color, like Mystic. So I would count this. You get a point.
Slay.
I would say half a point because
What more do you want? I'm just kidding. I'm listening.
I think
There's also the weakest link, which literally says choose a card in their hand without a base defense and it discard it.
yeah. So
Which
there's
one's that
some
one?
generic cards, but there aren't like any Mystic cards that really play with the hate stuff.
Or fact finding mission, which just flips up arsenal or equipment zones. Like they're really just trying to target
the cloak.
the cloak stuff.
Yeah. Okay. You have brought up enough extra points that I will give Joel a full point.
Slay.
Clark said there will be hate cards for the chi resource.
I actually think I just gave you evidence for that too.
Yeah, with the weakest link.
Yep, I think that's a point.
Yeah.
It's a hate card, not hate cards. Is that meaningful enough?
Nope, I don't care. You get the point.
Fuzzy threw a couple of reprints out there, and we said, all right, he can't just flood it, so he needs to get a lot of these right to land. He was saying Prismatic Shield was going to get reprinted.
Wrong.
Spears of Surreality was going to get reprinted.
Wrong.
Iris of Reality was going to get reprinted.
Wrong.
He just listed reprint after reprint after reprint, and we did not see a lot of them.
There was 1 or 2 crouching tigers I had in my notes that I don't think I shared, but I won't even mention them now.
I think some of the Crouching Tiger stuff did get reprinted. Those were kind of the ground fruit cards. We expected those.
That
to get
was
reprinted.
that was 100% ground food.
That was 100%
I don't think we can
ground
take for
fruit.
granted at ground fruit level that LSS is going to be reprinting like existing Crouching Tiger cards because we want to see like more support added rather than just printing existing ones, right? But you know what? It's okay. Again, I didn't want points for those anyway. I don't know what I'm challenging here.
Fuzzy doing that defensive. I didn't even care, bro. I didn't even care, bro. It doesn't. I don't even care. I suggested Wounded Bull was going to get reprinted. Now they did reprint Wounding Blow,
So close.
but that is not Wounded Bull. Then we made an individual prediction about the expansion slot cards. So, Joel predicted that Vincent's card would be an Iron Maiden suit or casket, a chess piece that could transform into the demi-hero. This was incorrect.
Wrong.
Fuzzy's prediction was another Riptide trap, maybe triggering on allies or evasion, like Dominate and Overpower to help with some of Riptide's worst
This is such
matchups.
ground fruit, but like just barely not ground
I was
fruit.
close, but I really thought he would get literally a new trap. He got an ability to play traps again from like graveyard to banish, which
Yeah.
is new design space, but not what I was predicting.
Oh, I misunderstood. Sorry, I did mean to sound so toxic there. He did get a card with Dominate with evasion.
Yeah.
And it interacts with traps.
No,
so
I
was
meant a card that would trigger on evasion.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, like if this is blocking something with overpower or dominate.
It's okay, lay on the toxicity. I was wrong.
And for our final prediction here, I predicted that we would get a pushed mechanologist crank item, specifically to help Max and Dash IO.
You got that one. Like basically almost on the nail in the head.
Definitely not. One, it's an action card, not an item. It doesn't crank, and it is Max only, not Max and Dash IO.
Well, it's not a spec.
It's not a spec.
And it creates a hybrid driver that with Max's ability you can crank.
Yes.
That's so close. I would give you the half point for that.
The half point for
I do
that.
half point.
Yeah, we're specifically talking about Supercell.
It's essentially a crank item that helps push Max. Like,
Yeah, it definitely helps Max.
what's the numbers?
This has to be the most predictions with the least amount of points.
I think it really
I bet you the winner has like 2.5.
Oh, you're close. So, in third place, we have Fuzzy
What?
with 2 points.
Ooh.
I thought I was doing good.
Not your time this time, bucko.
In third place, we have Joel with 2 points.
Oh, wow.
And
Wait.
Clark wins with 3 points.
Oh.
2
wait.
full points and 2 half points.
Wow.
So I won by 1 point over and 2 half correct predictions over.
That
Let's
was
go back and recalibrate some of the answers. Just kidding.
Joel's gonna be editing, and he's gonna like.
Cut it out just to make me look like an
Yeah.
asshole. Someone's like, where did this random extra point Clark can't get from?
Thank you guys for listening to that, listeners. This might feel a little bit like self-aggrandizing as we play our little game together, but hopefully you guys enjoy listening to us review all of our predictions from when we were bright-eyed dreamers as to what the potential of this set could be.
Yeah, if you like this concept, maybe comment down how you would like to be involved in this process. Like maybe we make it a Discord-wide prediction thing.
Yeah.
That would be
Do-
really
Do
fun.
like a live stream, maybe. I don't know.
And if you just hate this because you don't find it that interesting,
Don't tell us.
no, I really want to
Yeah,
know
I-
that.
I would wanna know.
I
Go ahead,
really
go ahead,
want to
say it.
know if this is not working.
I can take it.
All right, with all that being said, let's move on to our Arsenal Zone.
Listeners, the Arsenal Zone is where we each shout out a card that we've been thinking about lately, and because we're reviewing spoiler season, we thought it would be nice if we each shout out a card specifically from spoiler season, hopefully one that we haven't mentioned earlier in the episode. I'm going to start while my fellow hosts go and scroll through
Whoa,
February.
whoa. I'm ready. I was born ready.
Fuck, God damn it, shit.
The card that I want to shout out is Prismatic Leyline. That's the generic Majestic that's yellow and blocks for 3, and it's a non-attack action that gives your next red attack +1, and it gives your next yellow attack +2. And it gives your next
And purple card gets +0.
and it gives you your next blue card +3. So you could get 6 points of value from this card as long as you play your rainbow, a red and a yellow and a blue. And I'm interested in this card because it's really good when you play lots of cards in the same turn, like, I don't know, Katsu, the ninja I've been playing for the past few months. Because Katsu can really easily play out like red Surging, yellow Descendant into red
Blue
bonds into blue Dishonor. And that Dishonor is coming in for 7 at the end.
Oh my god.
So
That's so good.
suddenly they have to, but you have to have a lot going for you beforehand, kind of like Art of War. Like,
Sure.
honestly, like Art of War already is like, can we get our 5-card hand? We're really just saving up for that 5-card hand. And this card kind of gives the same amount of value as Art of War does if you can line it up. So it might be that like we're waiting for Art of War or Ancestral Harmony or Prismatic Leyline, and we're running like 8 copies of these big power cards. So I'm really interested to play with it in my list and see how it goes.
You know what I think this card really does better, or a better job than? Ancestral Harmony. It basically gets like 5 points of value, or like, I don't know, like it depends on what you banish, but if you banish a combo card and it gets +1 for the turn and it buffs like at least 2 attacks, then it gets the same value, or then Prismatic Leyline gets the same value as if you hit on Prismatic or on Ancestral Harmony.
I'm probably going to be taking out some like quote unquote extra combo cards. Like, I have the cuttable combo cards. Like, I'm running Cyclone Roundhouse. I don't need to be running Cyclone Roundhouse. I'm running, like, a yellow 100 wins. I don't need to be running a yellow
There's
100
so many
wins.
people who just like cringed at hearing those card choices.
Well,
I'm specifically running them to get my combo numbers up for Ancestral Harmony. And people that do that run those, well, they run yellow 100 wins at least.
Yeah, I don't know what the roundhouse game, but maybe.
Well,
I
we're
don't know.
already running spinning wheel kicks, and so I thought it'd be cute to run the roundhouse.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It's really fun when I pull it off of an Ancestral Harmony. Anyway, that's the card that I wanted to shout out today. What about you two? Joel?
Yeah, cool card, Fuzzy. I'll go next. The card I wanted to talk about was Sacred Art Jade Tiger Domain, which is basically a specialization for Zen. It's a 3-cost Mystic Ninja instant, and it's a legendary, so you only get one. And if you played another blue card, you can choose all 3 modes. Otherwise, you just choose one of create 2 Crouching Tigers in your hand. Your Crouching Tigers get +1 this turn, or you transcend. And when I first saw this card, I was like, this looks fucking dope. I mean, look at the art even. Just the base art looks so cool. And I think I've pinpointed why I love Zen so much is because he reminds me of my favorite character in Naruto, which being Might Guy.
yeah.
When he go, yeah, you see it?
Yeah.
Because the noble blue beast of the Hidden Leaf Village.
Oh, yeah.
And having, the tigers resemble like his Hidoro, or I think it's called. But that, and plus having another anthem effect for your Crouching Tigers that synergizes with the hero ability.
It's so important.
It wins on so many levels, even if he winds up being the worst of the 3 heroes. I just love this card.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Joel, because I really love that card too.
Yeah.
It's a good
sick
one.
Card.
So for mine, I think I'm going to shout out the Emissary of Cycle. I know, I'm cheating. I'm doing 3 cards instead of 1. But Emissary of Moon, Emissary of Tides, and Emissary of Wind. I think that these are really great cards for 2 reasons. One is that it is E-Strike Light. So, like, if you were running E-Strike for a very specific purpose, like, for example, in Guardian, right? It's your source of Go Again. Very rarely are you using the other 2 abilities. You can, but you very rarely do. So now in a budget list, you can have Emissary of Wind, and you can run something that gives you that effect without needing to have to cash out $100 to get 3 E-Strikes.
Or you're playing Commoner, and they're the only legal options you have.
They are not legal in Commoner, they are rare.
Never mind.
I know.
I'm not big on these cards. I tried.
But I think that they're extremely important in Limited. Like, very, very important in Limited. One, because I've been kind of mentioning how it's going to be hard, actually, for you to get enough power in your deck when you're fighting so hard over all these blues, that having something that can just be a 0 for 4 Go Again, or a 0 for 6, or sorry, like a 2-card 6, like those, that's just good value, and you need that in your deck.
I think the Moon won the most, where you get to sink a card. That's barely a cost.
Yeah. Yeah, like say like you have a Chi that's just kind of like you draw like 2 Chi in the late game and you're like, oh my god, what do I do with the second Chi? I can't arsenal it, and I don't want to leave it, don't want to IP penalty myself one. Like, being able to sink it and replace it with something else to toss an arsenal is a pretty good a thing.
I like that you brought up these cards, Clark, because in Limited, I think each of the heroes uses or wants one specifically over the other. Like, I can't imagine all of them want Go Again, because like Enigma would probably just swing with all of her ward effects for like more efficient use of like a 1-card hand, or 2-card hand rather. She'd probably want to use like the Emissary of Moon, because she can draw and filter maybe into an Illusionist Aura that's an instant that she can arsenal. And comparatively, Na would want the +2 version, because she can play it off of a Go Again source from her Slither, targeting one of her stealth cards. And then obviously Zen would want all the Go Again he can get. So I love this, the use cases for Limited specifically. I like that you brought it up.
And I think the funniest thing about these cards is Na and Zen both put dummy tokens in their hand that can be sunk to the bottom of their deck for these bonus effects.
Yes.
No, that almost feels viable. Putting a Slither on the bottom of my deck and then like attacking for 6 or drawing a card or even just go again, like that feels kind of viable. I think Zen putting Crouching Tigers on the bottom is kind of a meme, but in Limited, if you just want the value really fast, that can be like reaching for the end of the game and you don't care what you're putting on the bottom.
Yeah, like if you banish to Zen's ability and you just get a Crouching Tiger you can't use, just bottom it for like a +2 or with Go Again.
Honestly, that's what I would say. I would say that like Assassin is really reaching for the Go Again. I really liked what you said about Enigma wanting to be able to filter for like the right card to throw in Arsenal. And I think that Emissary of Tides is what Zen actually wants, which is a nice big power finisher that doesn't require resources.
Yeah, that probably makes more sense, yeah.
Because he's already spending 2 resources, you know, to attack with his weapon. And 1 on like probably a combo card. He probably isn't sitting around with a lot of resources.
Right.
But like being able to just throw a 0 for 6 off of the Crouching Tiger that you made is pretty good value.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, actually. I didn't even think about that.
I'm really glad you brought these cards up, Clark.
Yeah, I think it's a great cycle. I think they have strong limited implications, and I love seeing budget options for staples. You know, it's straight worse. I wish that they printed 1 card that had all 3 options, but they were slightly worse options. But I'll take this.
Yeah, like +1, kind of Go Again and kind of draw a card.
If they're splitting it into... Well, one of the powers of E-Strike is the fact that it's modular. So, like, not only did they kind of reduce it, right? It's a 4 that gains +2, and a 4 that gets Go Again, and a 4 that gets to draw a card. Now it's like... It's a 0 for 4, and it blocks 2, and no modular. Fuck you. Do not pass Go. Do not collect $200. Like, they heard it on 3 points.
Yeah.
And I wish that they had only heard it on 2 or 1.
True.
But I'll accept it, you know, budget option, great limited implications. I'm happy.
I'm so excited for this set. What do you think, you guys?
Man, I am too. I'm excited to play it in Nationals specifically and the practice leading up to it. I'm hoping, dear God, Zen's playable in the meta.
Yeah. There's a lot of great cards to keep your eye out for in Limited. I think this might be some of the most fun in Limited I've ever had. Heavy Hitters was cool, but it wasn't fun. I feel like this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And by the way, if you're going to Nationals this year, US Nats, Joel and I will be there. Please come up to us and say hi.
Or else.
Yeah, we love seeing new faces. We're still at that stage where it doesn't feel like anyone listens to our show. So if you come up and prove us wrong, it'll make our day, trust me.
Which is wild because we have nearly 100 subscribers on YouTube.
Let's go.
It's exciting.
We're almost at the first milestone, guys. We're so close. And you can help.
All right, Helldivers. Catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, gamers.
Bye.
Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Fuzzy Delp, Clark Moore, and Joel Recinos. Our executive producer is Talon Stradley. Music by Dillon Hulse. Logo by Han V. And sound mixing by Christopher Moore. Last but not least, we'd like to thank you, the listener. Thank you for tuning in. Please give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me podcast.
Whoa!
What?
I think the Fable's revealed.
Mist Cloak Gully.
What's the landmark?
An instant landmark. Oh, this
For
is
1?
this is so playable.
This is 100% playable in Enigma.
What?
Of each end phase. So
Wait.
you have to pitch, play, or defend with a blue on your opponent's turn.
If you've pitched, played, or defended with a blue card this turn, transcend.
Wait, what? How does that work?
Do you just get a chi?
The first attack.
Do you just get a chi like every turn?
I think you get a chi every turn.
No, it would go back to your hand. Transcend means flip this and put it into your hand as a chi.
No,
and you have to pitch, play, and defend.
Oh, you have to do all 3.
Yeah, so you destroy it unless you do one of those, and once you do all 3 of them, you transcend.
But I don't think this goes to. I don't think that itself is a cheat.
Listeners, you're reading this card live. These are our live reactions.
Yeah, if you ever want to know how we do shit live, it is just Joel going, "What?"
Let me see.
We're like little kids on a playground.
The first attack
And he found a
target
bug.
you get -1 each turn. That's another card that hoses Bolton. Love that. Merry Christmas to me.
Bro, they really said fuck Bolton.
Bro, literally.